Hi everyone. Today I'm in the northeast corner of Simi Valley, California to explore a part of the Las Llajas Canyon. There's a large dam at the mouth of the canyon, and I've always wondered why. The creek that runs through the canyon is not very big, so why such a big dam? The search for the answer has led me down many rabbit holes. Turns out this place has a lot of history. Who knew? I'm going to get to the dam by starting at the Las Llajas trailhead. Google Maps or any good trail app will show you how to get here. Let's get started. To the right leads down to the main Las Llajas trail. The left is just a service road. But first, let's go up here and take a look around. Behold, the Marr Ranch open space in all of its fall glory. To the left, you can see down there a ways is the dam, and to the right, where you see that little fork, is the main Las Llajas Trail. And somewhere down there, not even sure if you can see it from up here, is that small stream that somehow warrants such a large dam. The dam that we see was built in 1980-81. It's about 90 feet high and 640 feet wide, and it was very controversial at the time. But we're getting ahead of ourselves. The story of the dam really starts 60 years earlier in the 1920s with a man named Howard Marr. Howard Marr bought a lot of the land you see here and to the west of here from a defunct oil company. Yeah, there's oil in these hills. Let's start making our way towards the dam. Word of caution while walking down this section, every once in a while you'll see some trucks come up this way. Let's head off to the left and walk down this way. He planned to build a big country club that would include a clubhouse, tennis courts, stables, a picnic area, a golf course eventually, and miles of bridle paths. He subdivided a large portion of the canyon into small lots for people to build vacation cabins. He also planned to create a dam somewhere in the canyon to create a lake for fishing and swimming. He called this big project Marland. Here's a very early ad for Marland. Here's the Las Llajas Creek. Not very impressive. You can see why I wondered why they felt they needed such a large dam at the mouth of the canyon. But it always has a little bit of water, so I guess that's impressive for Southern California. Anyway, back to Marland. Construction started soon after the land purchase, and before long the clubhouse was done, as well as a few other amenities, and plot sales were going well in the first couple of years at least. But in 1930, plot sales really dropped off a cliff, and if you know anything about history, you'll know why. Had Marr's plans worked out, we'd now be walking through a sizable neighborhood of little vacation cabins. And somewhere around here would be a dam and small lake and a picnic area. But it never happened. Why? Because Marr had the bad fortune of starting a big project right at the beginning of the Great Depression. After it hit, plot sales dried up, and those that had purchased plots stopped making payments. And after a while, the whole thing went bust, and Howard Marr's dream of Marland never happened. Marland became Marr Ranch, and Howard and his family switched to growing crops, raising livestock, and drilling for oil. The Marr family kept the ranch going through the 40s and 50s, but eventually sold it in the early 60s after the death of Howard Marr. Let's head over and check out this tall thing over here. During the 40s and 50s, Simi Valley was going through a combination of dry weather and a population boom, which led to frequent water shortages. There are many newspaper articles during this time talking about the need for water conservation. The county planners worked with local ranchers to create agricultural reservoirs to catch water coming out of the canyons to be used for watering crops. The Marr family built such a reservoir back in 1947 west of here in what's now the Wild Horse Canyon subdivision. Here's an article that talks about that. Let's take a look inside here. What does it say? Live with honor, die with glory. That's a nice sentiment. No, I guess if this stuff piles up really high, the water can still drain away by going through there. The area I'm walking through right now is called the catch basin. This is where debris and stuff would collect during a heavy rainfall. Let's head over to that trail you can see, and I'll keep talking some history. Those private reservoirs I mentioned helped, but population growth projections led experts to predict that county would run out of water by around 1970. These fears of water shortages were finally eased in 1961 when a tunnel was dug to the mountains to bring water in from Los Angeles. Also, there was an increase in rainy weather in the mid 60s, which led people to shift from worrying about water conservation to worrying about the need for better flood control. Added to this were calls from the local Chamber of Commerce for more parks because of the growing population. County planners felt they could tackle both problems by building a large aquatic park right here at the end of the canyon. The park would not only help with flood control, but include a big lake that could be used for swimming, boating, and fishing. Can you believe it? They'd create this park by creating a huge 110-foot tall dam that would close off not only the Las Llajas Canyon, but the neighboring Chivo Canyon, flooding both canyons. The dam would supposedly create 83 acres of lake surface and nearly 350,000 square feet of beach area. And the surrounding park would have hundreds of picnic tables and there'd be miles of trails. Construction was scheduled to start in 1971 and would be funded in part from county money and partly from state money. Unfortunately, they never got the state money. The state money instead went to build the Castaic Reservoir, which is up north of Los Angeles, known as Castaic Lake these days. The big Simi Valley Park got scrapped, and once again, no Las Llajas Dam. Still, the need for flood control remained, and calls for a dam at the end of Las Llajas Canyon persisted. In 1976, the county asked engineers to come up with new options. The winning plan was a pair of dams, one to close off Chivo Canyon and the other to close off Las Llajas Canyon. And the one across Las Llajas Canyon would also create a little 14-acre reservoir that could be used for swimming or fishing. This plan was smaller in scale than the big aquatic park plan of 1969, and this time they could afford it just on county money. They put the plan in motion in 1977, and it was immediately controversial. Before we talk about why, let's explore this area. Looks like the locals have turned this area into a little mountain bike track. Let's look around. Let me lift the camera up so we can get a little better view. You can see there's tracks all over the place. Not really sure the purpose of this flat area. I don't know why you'd want a lower flat area right next to a dam. But let's go to that high ground off to the left and see if we can get a better view and maybe a better idea of why it might be here. Let's head up here. This will take us to the same level as the top of the dam, and then we can look around. This is what it looks like up here. Let's look at the track. Looks like a fun place to play. Wish I was a kid again with a dirt bike or something. Still not really sure why this lower area exists. You'd think it would defeat the purpose of the dam. Water would come through here instead of topping the dam, and maybe that's its purpose. Let's walk over to the edge of the dam and look over and see what we can see. As we get to the edge here, I think I know what's happening. So this type of dam is only meant to slow down water, but catch debris. But if there's so much water that it can't drain fast enough, they don't want it topping over the dam. So instead they want it to go around the dam over those mountain bike trails and through a channel that's in front of the dam. Let's head back to this flat area where the mountain bike tracks are and follow the path of that overflow water. And I'll continue to talk about the controversy of building the dam. The first source of opposition came from the people who still own some of those old Marland plots. Yeah, those plots are still around and tracked by the city. Here's a current map of them. This map is from the Ventura County Surveyor's Office. There were many plots sitting on the land where the dam and reservoir would be built. However, this proved to be a small obstacle for the county. Governments are good at taking land they want. They simply condemned the plots and seized them. That path to the right leads to a ridgeline trail, but let's go to the left and continue following the path that the overflow water would take. No, the more significant source of opposition was a woman named Ann Rock. There are many articles during this period talking about her crusade against the dams. Ann Rock was an environmentalist and engineer who felt the dams were not needed, that the cost estimates were far too low, and they would destroy yet more of the beautiful open space around here. She felt a better use of the money would be to expand the capacity of the drainage channels downstream of the canyons. She also pointed out that the dams were close to two fault lines and could be damaged in an earthquake, that construction could stir up large clouds of dust containing valley fever spores, triggering an outbreak. That didn't happen. Also, the dam was home to thousands of ground squirrels and other burrowing animals, which could dig through and compromise the dam, which did happen at the Marr Ranch agricultural reservoir the previous year. For the next 2.5 years, she engaged in a one-woman battle with city and county planners in an attempt to thwart this two-dam plan. She wrote letters, attended meetings, scrutinized every process and document for mistakes, finding many, and even commissioned her own geologic report, but it was all for naught. The two-dam plan got approved, and the county started asking for construction bids in August of 1979. Ironically, all the bids came in almost twice the estimated costs, and the county supervisors were forced to scrap the two-dam plan. On at least one count, Ann Rock proved correct. And again, no Las Llajas Dam. Speaking of the dam, here's the front side. You can see the overflow channel we've been following. It's on the left there. Normally the water would come through the culvert and then continue down this channel here and eventually go under the road. Let's check where it goes under the road. It's up ahead here. So here's where the water goes under Yosemite Avenue. There's no water now because it's been pretty dry. But I've been here before when there's a nice stream going through. And as is typical for me, I can't resist poking my head in there. Let's head down there, avoiding poison oak, and see what we can see. I'm not going to walk through it, just wanted to take a look. There's another culvert under the road over here. I guess the planners felt they should have two in case one of them gets plugged up. I think that's a good idea. Let's head down this way and I'll talk about what happened after the two-dam plan got axed. A few weeks after they had to scrap the two-dam plan, they came up with a one-dam plan. It would just be across the Las Llajas Canyon and wouldn't have any permanent reservoir behind it. Perhaps tired of the long battle and declared victory and didn't oppose the new plan, and the Las Llajas Dam you see now was finally built. It's been here for 40 years now. How has it fared? Has it ever been put to the test? And if so, how has it held up? Let's set up this ridgeline trail while I talk about that. Well, the ground squirrel problem never manifested, so the dam didn't face its first real test until 1994 when the Northridge earthquake hit. The dam came through undamaged. Its next major test came in 2003-2004. There was a major fire in the mountains above the canyon in 2003, followed by a series of storms in 2004. Literally tons of fire-related debris washed out of the mountains and created a 27-foot-high pile of silt and debris behind the dam. Clearing this debris pile turned out to be a major multi-year undertaking that took an estimated 12,000 to 15,000 truckloads to clear. The cleanup was going to create so much truck traffic through the valley that the neighboring city of Moorpark sued to have the trucks go somewhere else. They lost. After almost 2 years of work, all the debris was removed, the dam did its job, and came out unharmed. but has it faced its ultimate test? Can it withstand the worst rains to ever hit the area? This is still an open question. The worst rains to ever hit the area was an event known as the Great Flood of 1862. The Great Flood of 1862 was the largest recorded flood in the history of the West Coast, with California being hit the hardest. There was a series of storms in the fall and winter of that year that dumped the equivalent of 10 feet of water in California over a period of 43 days. In the Los Angeles area, it rained so much that the Los Angeles, San Gabriel, and Santa Ana rivers merged, turning a large section of Los Angeles County into an inland sea for about 3 weeks. There were no reports about what happened in the Simi Valley during this time, but it's safe to assume it was bad there, too. Can it happen again? Geologic evidence has been found that massive floods as big or bigger than the 1862 event occur in California roughly every 100 to 200 years. So yes, it can happen again. And that is why the little creek running through Las Llajas Canyon leads to a giant dam.